Belal Muhammad fights this weekend at UFC 315, and he gets a lot of hate for potentially being the most boring champion in the UFC. And so in today's video, I wanted to run through and rank the 9 men's champions from least exciting to most exciting. So we're not trying to frame it as who's the most boring, but in fact, who is the most exciting fighter in the UFC. And to your guys' surprise, potentially, Belal Muhammad is actually not my least entertaining champion. And so let's just dive right into it here. Would love to hear your thoughts. Potentially drop your list down below in the comment section. But for my least entertaining current champion, at number 9, I have Jon Jones. And you know what is worse than a boring champion? A champion who straight up does not fight. And not only does he not fight, but holds up a very, very exciting interim champion. And that's exactly what we have in Jon Jones. Now, the 2 times he's fought at heavyweight, they've been entertaining. The first Cyril Gane fight was fun. The Stipe fight was whatever, but the UFC and Jon Jones have turned the heavyweight division into a joke. You have a guy like Tom Aspinall, who is an all-time talent, an extremely entertaining fighter. He's going to be ranked very high on this list. And it is Jon Jones' fault that we have not seen Tom Aspinall fight in a very, very long time. And so, maybe I'm kind of cheating here, bending the rules because he's not necessarily a super boring fighter, but I'm going to consider it. If you don't fight, if you clog up a division, I consider that to be pretty boring because you're not letting these other fun fighters get a crack at the opportunity. So Jon Jones is going to come in here at number 9. Now at number 8, Belal Muhammad does not move up all that much. This is where I have him. And for Belal, I will say I think he's someone who fights pretty optimally with his physical abilities. He's not an elite athlete. He doesn't have crazy size. He's not crazy explosive. He doesn't have crazy power. So if he went out there and tried to have a striking masterclass, and push this crazy high pace and get into these wars, he just wouldn't win. So he certainly, maximizes the skills, the tools that he does have. Unfortunately, it's just not a super fun style. He has a 25% pro finish rate, which is crazy low. Even his non-UFC fights are not ending in finish at a super high rate. He has 15 UFC wins, only 3 finishes in the promotion. He does not have a single UFC knockdown, which it's kind of crazy. Even for not having power, you think once, at least early on in your career, you'd be able to just stun someone, sit them down for at least a second. That has not happened. And then he just kind of has this style where if he's going up against, potentially entertaining strikers like a Wonder Boy, a Luque, I wouldn't necessarily throw Leon in there, but kind of a similar story where he really has the ability with his wrestling to just control grapple these guys, grind out the fight. And if you're watching, Wonder Boy, Luque fight, that's not exactly what you're hoping to see. So Belal Muhammad, very good fighter. I think he makes the most of what he has, but I don't think it's a super fun style. So he's going to come in here at number 8. Then after Belal, I debated between 2 different guys here for this number 7 spot. I ended up going with Magomed Ankalaev, and I think we just have to look at this most recent fight where pretty much every fight that Alex Pereira has had has been an absolute banger. Maybe with the exception of the Jan Blachowicz fight. But I don't think it's a coincidence that Pereira's most boring fight is the one where Magomed Ankalaev got in there and, was his opponent. Now, I think Ankalaev is really good, right? When I'm saying these guys aren't all that exciting, it's not me dumping on their skill set. It's just their fighting style. He has a 50% UFC finish rate, which isn't terrible, but I do think we have to take into account that this is up at light heavyweight. He just fights at a very slow pace. He's very patient. He's kind of passive. If the other guy's, not really going to force the issue, he's fine just sitting back, picking his opponent apart. He only lands 3.66 significant strikes per minute. And then also, he just pretty much has no personality. So anything around the fight just feels kind of dead. You've got his manager just tweeting for him constantly. I find it to be, not super fun. So I think that does factor in here. He just doesn't have any flair when he's fighting. So I am going to have him here at the number 7 spot. And then at number 6, this is the guy that I was debating between. I went with Merab. And I think you could make the case that Ankalaev has just strictly from a fighting style, I could see him, being a little bit more entertaining because he is striking more. He does have the power, right? He has the ability to actually finish guys. But I think what makes Merab's style fun is he at least tries to be entertaining, and maybe he's not doing it, just for the fans. Maybe that's how he fights, and like he fights best when he's kind of having fun in there. But he goes in, he's such a high level fighter. He's fought a bunch of really high level dudes, and he's like going in and emoting on the highest level fighters, in the UFC, in MMA. He's emoting on Umar. He's emoting on Henry Cejudo, just chucking him around the cage, like talking to people while he's wrestling him. You just don't really see guys doing that. I mean, he's like kissing O'Malley. He's grabbing Petr Yan's butt in that fight when he's just completely dominating him. He also has such a unique style where I don't think we've seen anyone weaponize pace in the way that he does. And so his cardio is so unbelievably elite that at least when you're watching him, even though like his constant wrestling, he's not the best striker, it's not the most exciting style, but it at least seems like you're watching like a potential all-time great, at least fighting in a very unique way. So I think that kind of gives him a little bit of an edge. He doesn't have a ton of finishing upside. I mean, pretty much no finishing upside. He's not really a submission threat. He doesn't hit super hard, but I think he makes an effort. And I think the fact that he is just so unbelievably good at a really high quality weight class, like the fact that he can go in and just like dominate a guy like Petr Yan, like beat Umar, beat O'Malley, beat these super high level guys, I think it's extremely impressive. And so he is going to come in at number 6. Now at number 5, I'm going to have Alexandre Pantoja. And I feel like Pantoja is almost like the one just like median level fighter in terms of excitement. I feel like we have a few guys who the vast majority of fans view as pretty boring, and then pretty much everyone above this is, widely regarded as super exciting. Pantoja, kind of like that midline. And I feel like with Pantoja, the excitement level is almost predicated on how solid his opponent's takedown defense and just grappling defense is. Because if he can, he will go out there, use his wrestling, get on the back, and just rack up a ton of control time. We saw that in the Brandon Royval fight and some of his other matchups. Like if the rounds are boring, it's probably because he is just out grappling them and he has a dominant position. If they can hold up in the grappling department, then he is completely fine getting into these really fun, like potential wars. I think 3 of his 4 title fights have been, really entertaining. Moreno, Asakura, and then Urseg. The Royval one was the one that just, wasn't all that great. He also has finished 7 of his 13 UFC wins, which in the flyweight weight class is extremely impressive. So he's pretty durable on the feet, just constantly marching forward. He is an amazing grappler, dangerous ground game, submission game. So I think Pantoja here at number 5, I do think he's pretty exciting. I know after the Royval fight, people were kind of criticizing him. I think part of it is like people really wanted Moreno to win. So whatever grappling he did do, they didn't like. But I think Pantoja's fun, in a pretty fun weight class. And now breaking into the top 4, I don't think there's going to be a ton of disagreement on who's in this top 4. I think the order might be switched up. For me, I felt pretty solid putting Dricus Du Plessis at number 4. He has a very funky style, but it kind of just leads to fun fights, with the exception of the Sean Strickland matchups, which I don't put on DDP. I think Sean Strickland just like sucks any entertainment out of, any potential fighter he goes up against. But with DDP, you just have no idea what you're going to get. And I think what's so fun is he's pretty much like fought to the level of his competition, where like early on in his career in the UFC, like he's having competitive fights with like Brad Tavares. He's going to war with Darren Till. He's going to war with Derek Brunson. But like as the competition got tougher and tougher, he just continued to still be better. So he's constantly improving. It's just so weird though, because like I said, he goes to war with Till and Brunson. Then right after, it's like, all right, Whitaker's just going to run through him. He's too clean. He's too sharp. DDP's too reckless. And then he just completely nukes Whitaker, and it's like not even a competitive fight. He has finished 6 of his 9 UFC wins, and so he's got a unique style. You never really know what you're going to get to see. He's always going to go for it. He's not going to be super passive. He comes in as my number 4 most exciting fighter. Now, my top 3 was pretty locked in. I was kind of just debating on the order of these 3, and I think it just comes down to kind of, what your preference is. So at number 3, I went with Tom Aspinall. And yes, I'm going to be including interim champions. I think at this point, Tom Aspinall is more of the heavyweight champ than Jon Jones. And with Aspinall, I mean, he just goes in and he finishes everyone. In his 8 UFC wins, he has finished all 8 of them, 7 in the first round. Only 1 has made it into round 2. He is so unbelievably powerful. He even showed off the grappling, the entertaining submission offense against Alexander Volkov. And he really is a fighter where, like, if the fight starts and you glance away, you go to the fridge, it's probably going to be over by the time you look back, you get back. And so I guess the criticism is, like, he's not getting into like these back and forth wars. They're just so short and they're just not all that competitive. And so if you like want to go out and you just want to see a quick knockout, like that is Tom Aspinall, I completely understand I'm nitpicking. Like, I am not complaining that Tom Aspinall is just nuking everyone. I just think, like, when we're ranking by excitement, I think some of these guys that are maybe getting into like more back and forth, competitive, like longer drag out fights, it can be more entertaining. Obviously, it's all preference. So Tom Aspinall here coming in at number 3. Then, once again, tough choosing between number 2 and number 1. At number 2, I ended up going with Islam Makhachev, and I think he has this like nice combination of just being a really, really good high-level fighter. I think he has a fun style, but then he still has the ability to be in these like competitive, entertaining, longer fights. And there's like this weird narrative. I think it's just because, he's Dagestan, he gets kind of lumped in with maybe fighters that people don't think are super entertaining. But there's this idea of like, oh, who's going to save us from Islam Makhachev being champ? And it's like, save you from what? Pretty much every fight he's had has been super entertaining. And I do potentially get, right, like he's beaten a lot of super likable guys, whether that's Volk twice, Oliveira, Dustin, right? Like potential fan favorites across the board. But like his style is undeniably very, very entertaining. He's well-rounded. He's a great striker. He's a dominant grappler. He's had some of like the clear dominant wins like the Oliveira fight, Moicano, the second Volk one, but he's also had those competitive wins that went long. The Dustin Poirier fight that he finished in the 5th, the Volk fight that I believe was, most people's fight of the year, where they went the distance, super competitive. He has finished 11 of his 16 UFC wins, and then 4 of his 5 title fights have ended by finish. So Islam Makhachev, definitely a very, very exciting fighter. And then as you can probably guess at this point, my number 1 is going to be Ilia Topuria. He is just such an amazing striker. He has a pretty unique style. He's so powerful, hits like an absolute tank. I mean, when you can go out and knock out Volkanovski and Max Holloway back-to-back, you are obviously like already an all-time great. He has finished 6 of his 8 UFC wins, and one of the ones he didn't finish had a 50-42 scorecard in that Josh Emmett matchup. So I do think if you could tell me like you are watching one champion, who's it going to be? I would be picking Ilia Topuria. Also, didn't even mention the grappling, but like you look at the Bryce Mitchell fight, he was out there just ragdolling him. He's so talented. He's so good. I want to see the number 1 and number 2 in my rankings face off. The fight to make has got to be Islam Makhachev taking on Ilia Topuria, the 2 most exciting fighters. In my opinion, the top 2 pound-for-pound guys. That is the fight to make. Would love to see it, but let me know your guys' thoughts. Do you agree with my rankings? Who should be higher? Who should be lower? Let me hear it. But thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.